morning again, welcoming you to another edition of Game Time with Kenny. Yes, Game Time with Kenny is back in the house, and we are ready to rock and roll today. Um, let's go over the NBA playoffs from yesterday. A couple of game sixes. The um, home teams had to win in order to force a game seven in the NBA playoffs. If the road teams win, which would have been Toronto and Denver, the series would have been done. But if the home teams win, which is Portland and Philadelphia, they would go on the road in both Toronto and in Denver for a game number seven. Well, let's see what happened in both games. Well, when you talk about Toronto, Philadelphia, the key to this game was they finally figured out a way how to stop Kawhi Leonard. And they have not been able to stop him through the first 5 games of this series. Well, they were able to pretty much stop him. He didn't get 30 plus or anything in that game, but he did lead the team with 29. He did have 29 points, and Siakam also chipped in with 21, and Lowry had 13. When you go to the Philadelphia side, I mean, you had all 5 starters for Philadelphia get into double figures, led by Butler with 25 and Simmons with 21. Embiid has 17, Harris had 16, and Redick had 11. And off the bench, they had Scott, who led the way with 11, and Ennis the third also had 5 points, so they got 16 off the bench. Um, Toronto, on the other hand, they did get a little bit more than that. They got a total of 23. They actually outscored Philadelphia 23-16 off the bench yesterday, led by Ibaka with 9, Powell with 5, Miller with 6, Meeks with 2, and Van Vliet with 1. So the key to the game was stopping Kawhi Leonard, Embiid, Simmons, and you know uh, Butler. They came in with big games, and between those two, they combined for 63 points between those 3 players yesterday. It was amazing to see what happened there. Um, when you go to Denver and Portland, well, what happened here? Well, I tell you what, it looked like after the first quarter. I mean, you had Murray and you had Jokic. They both scored 10. And they looked like they were going to be on their way to a victory because Murray was 2 for 5 in the first quarter, and Jokic couldn't miss a shot. I mean, he was 5 for 5. Denver came out hot in that first quarter. They scored over 30 points in that first quarter. But when the game was said and done, we were believing that Damian Lillard was going to have a big game and he was going to shine in the game in Portland. And that is exactly what he did. He came up with 32 in yesterday's game. And Portland got a much needed win on the road or at home, 119 to 108. And Jokic led the way with 29 for Denver. Murray had 24. Millsap had 17. Craig had 10. And Harris had 15. So they had all 5 starters in double figures. But they didn't get real much off the bench, though. They were led by Barton with 7, and Plumlee with 4, and Beasley with 2. So they had a total of 13 points off the bench. And we said that Lillard and McCollum were going to have big games in this one, and they both did. They combined for 62 points. Lillard had 32 and McCollum had 30. But they really got a big contribution off the bench. Hood came off the bench and he got 25 yesterday. Collins had 14 and Curry had 3. So when you combine that, they got 42 off the bench yesterday. That was one of the reasons they won that game. They outscored the Denver bench 42-13 in yesterday's game. What an amazing turnaround game it was for the Portland Trailblazers, and it was amazing. So when you look at it, Philadelphia, they get the victory, 112-101, and Portland gets the victory, 119-108. Going to the National Hockey League. Well, Carolina, they played their hearts out in yesterday's game in Boston, and it looked like they were going to be on their way to a victory. But I'll tell you what, the Bruins, you got to give them credit. They fought. They didn't give up. It was Carolina leading 2-1 at the end of the second period. And it looked like Carolina was going to win that game. But a 4-goal third period by the Boston Bruins. And they get the victory. The Bruins, Marcus Johansson and Patrice Bergeron. Patrice Bergeron, who had a big series in the last series against Columbus when they played. Them two scored 28 seconds apart on the power play en route to the Bruins' 5-2 victory over the Carolina Hurricanes. So if you're the Carolina Hurricanes, what do you say to yourselves? Well, if you're going to beat the Boston Bruins, you got to play the entire 3 periods of hockey the same intensity, hard hitting, forechecks, controlling the neutral ice, spending more time in the Boston zone, wearing out the defense, creating long shifts for the Boston Bruins to the point of exhaustion. That's what you're going to have to do if you're going to defeat the Boston Bruins. Because Rask, he's one of the top goaltenders in the NHL. He knows how to play in the playoff games, and he proved it again. So they win 5-2. The other game, the Western Conference semifinal, will be taking place tomorrow night in the Shark Tank as the Sharks will host the Blues. The Blues coming off the double overtime victory in Game 7 at home against the Dallas Stars. What do they need to do to steal a game on the road in San Jose? We're gonna try to see, what do they got to do? Well, I'll tell you what, they're gonna have good goaltending for one. They got to play a flawless game in San Jose. They got to stay disciplined and stay out of the penalty box. Don't give Logan Couture and all those other guys another chance to be up one man in the hockey game for at least 2 minutes. You got to be disciplined. That's what the Blues got to do. So, in Major League Baseball yesterday, before we get there, the Boston Bruins, as we said, win 5-2. Their next game will be occurring on Sunday at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, at 9 a.m. for those of you in the Hawaiian Standard Time Zone, and that will be on NBC. All right. When you look at Major League Baseball, Well, I'll tell you what, the Cubs have had a couple of walk-off home runs and everything in there recently. And then we saw Mike Fiers for the Oakland A's against the Cincinnati Reds, getting a second career no-hitter, and they win 2-0. I mean, it's just incredible stuff in Major League Baseball. But there was a wild game in Denver yesterday. While the Denver Nuggets were on the road in Portland, the Colorado Rockies hosted the San Francisco Giants at home, and they get the 12-11 victory. Cincinnati returns the favor as far as the shutout. They shut out the Oakland A's yesterday by the score of 3-0. And the Washington Nationals go into Dodger Stadium and beat the LA Dodgers by the score of 6-0. And when you look at other scores, the Anaheim Angels used to be Anaheim, but now they're called the LA Angels. They go into Detroit and beat the Detroit Tigers 13-0. And in a 5-inning shortened game in Cleveland, it does count because they did go 5 innings. The Indians beat the White Sox 5-0. So those are some of the scores around Major League Baseball from yesterday. All right. So let's go to the day in history and sports. And lately, we've been talking a lot about the Kentucky Derby coming up, and this one is no different. There's going to be a lot about the Kentucky Derby in this one, on this day in sports history, what happened on May 10th. We do apologize for this week that we were not able to do some episodes every day this week. We will make it up as far as this day in history and sports, and we're going to catch up on everyone from what happened on May 5th up until May 12th. For that 1 week, we will do special programming. We'll do as much as we can within 30 minutes, but if we can't get it in within that 30 minutes, then we will do the rest of it in another program. All right, so what happened on May 10th? In 1870, Jem Mace defends his heavyweight boxing crown against Irish champion Joe Colburn. It lasts 1 hour and 17 minutes, and neither is struck by a punch. In 1889, the 17th Preakness, W. Anderson aboard Buddhist wins in 2:17.5. The 19th running of the Kentucky Derby in 1893 found Eddie Coons aboard Lookout wins in 2:39.25. In 1905, the 31st Kentucky Derby, Jack Martin aboard Agile wins in 2:100.75. In 1909, Winchester's Fred Toney no-hits Lexington for 17 innings. In 1910, the 36th Kentucky Derby, Fred Herbert aboard Donnell wins in 2:06.4. In 1913, the 39th Kentucky Derby horse race, Roscoe Goose aboard Donerail wins in 2:04.8. In 1913, the New York Yankees commit 8 errors and still beat the Detroit Tigers 10-9 in 10 innings. In 1919, the 45th Kentucky Derby, Johnny Loftus aboard Sir Barton wins in 2:09.8. In 1926, the 52nd Preakness, John Maben aboard Display wins in 1:59.8. In 1929, the 55th Preakness, Lewis Schaefer aboard Dr. Freeland wins in 2:01.6. In 1929, the 64th British Golf Open, Walter Hagen shoots a .292 at Muirfield, Gullane. In 1930, Claire Grimmett takes 10 for 37 versus Yorkshire in cricket at Sheffield. In 1941, the 67th Preakness, Eddie Arcaro, aboard Whirlaway, wins in 158.8. In 1946, the Boston Red Sox win the 15th straight, beating the New York Yankees 5-4. Joe DiMaggio hits a grand slam. In 1947, the 73rd Preakness, Doug Dodson aboard Faultless wins in 159. In 1953, Betsy Ross wins the LPGA Sacramento Golf Open. In 1959, the New York Giants' Jim Hearn allows 2 runs against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Game is suspended. Hearn is released and charged with loss 2 months after his retirement. In 1959, Joyce Ziske wins the LPGA Howard Johnson Golf Invitational. In 1964, Mickey Wright wins LPGA Squirt Ladies Golf Open Invitational. In 1967, Hank Aaron makes his only inside the park home run versus Jim Bunning. In 1970, we got 3 events here. Betsy Ross wins the LPGA Dallas Civitan Golf Open. Atlanta Braves' Hoyt Wilhelm pitches in his 1,000th game, loses to St. Louis 6-5. The Stanley Cup playoffs. The Boston Bruins sweep the St. Louis Blues in 4 games. In 1973, the 27th NBA championship, the New York Knicks beat the Los Angeles Lakers 4-1. In 1973, the 9th Mayor's Trophy game. New York Mets beat the New York Yankees 8-4. In 1973, the Stanley Cup playoffs. Actually, it'll be the Stanley Cup final. Yes. The Montreal Canadiens beat the Chicago Blackhawks 4-2. In 1974, the 7th ABA championship, New York Nets beat the Utah Stars 4-1. In 1978, Liverpool wins the 23rd Euro Cup the first. In 1979, John McMullen becomes CEO of the Houston Astros. In 1979, Montreal Expos' Charlie Lee no-hits San Francisco and beats the San Francisco Giants 4-0. In 1981, Amy Alcott wins the LPGA Lady Michelob Golf Tournament. In 1987, Jody Rosenthal wins the LPGA United Virginia Bank Golf Classic. In 1989, FC Barcelona wins the 29th Europe Cup II. In 1992, 2 events take place here. Jennifer Wyatt wins the LPGA Crestar Fresh Farm Golf Classic. In 1992, Sweden wins the Ice Hockey World Championship in Prague, Czechoslovakia. So those 2 events took place in 1992. 1997, the Chicago Cubs turn baseball's 68th triple play versus the San Francisco Giants. In 2001, a soccer game stampede in Ghana kills over 120. In 2009, in Bern, Switzerland, Russia defeats Canada to win gold in the championship game of the International Ice Hockey Federation. And that is what happened in this day in sports history back on May 10th. Well, I wanted to just tell you today, there's no games in the hockey today. It is only going to be the NBA playoffs. And yes, Game 6 will take place in Houston. Yes, the Warriors are reeling. They are a little bit vulnerable because now Kevin Durant did suffer an injury in yesterday's game, in Game 5, which was 2 days ago. There's no timetable in when he'll return. We hope that it's not a season-ending injury and that he will come back. Hopefully the MRI will come back negative and that he will be able to return to the Golden State Warriors lineup. So how does the Warriors win without Kevin Durant? They don't have DeMarcus Cousins, but yet the Warriors are up 3-2. Last year, the Golden State Warriors were down 3-2, and they won the last 2 games in Houston. This year, the Rockets have a Game 6 at home, but if they want a Game 7, they'll have to do it at home first and then go back to Oakland for Game 7. Well, as they say, in sports, you're going to have injuries. But how do you overcome them? Your top players have to step up. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, they're going to have to hit some big shots. Iguodala, he's going to have to make some outside shots. He's going to have to play great interior defense as well. Well, I'll tell you, Steph Curry's got to find a way where he's not using so much energy on defense, and that he does have some energy left on the offensive side where he can contribute. And they're going to have to come up with a big game plan today to go ahead and wrap up this series so that they can get some rest before a Game 7 between Denver and Portland. And I'll tell you what, if Denver plays them, that's not going to be easy. Jokic and Murray, it's not going to be easy to win against them. And Denver will go out to Golden State in Oakland for Game 1. So I want you to know that the Warriors are not going to give up. They've been down this road before. They've had injuries in the playoffs, and they've come back and they've proven that they can still win. The Warriors are going to have to be that type of team if they're going to advance and wait the winner of Denver and Portland. Well, we want to thank you for watching this edition of Game Time with Kenny, and we'd ask you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We want to provide you more sports information than any other source, and we want to become more creative and unique in the sense that we want to go beyond what other sports programs would give you on any given program. We have so much that we want to cover and we want to talk about, but we can't do it within a limited edition or within a 30-minute program or just a little less than 30 minutes. So we have a lot of information that we want to give you, but it's going to take us over a year to complete it. So I know that there's many different things that we're going to go through. But one of the things that we want to continue to do, try to at least 5 or 6 days a week, give you good programming as far as highlights from what happened in the sports world for the previous day's action. We want to also go ahead on future programs, talk about the NFL, talk about the NHL, talk about Major League Baseball, and talk about the National Hockey League. And we want to go through some of the great players that ever played the game and what they meant to each sport as they played it. So we want to go through those things that actually did happen. So once again, I do thank you for watching us today, this edition of Game Time with Kenny. Again, please subscribe to the channel. Give us your feedback. We love your comments. We will take it into consideration. We will respond back to you. It may not be right away, but we will get back to you as far as a response is concerned. I want to thank you all. You have a great day. Again, please, send the link, share this link with your Facebook friends, Twitter, any social media sites you have. Email your friends or text them on a cell phone. Please let them know about this program. And you have a great day, and we will see you on the next edition of Game Time with Kenny. Goodbye for now.